Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Pavlina McGrady, and I will share initial findings from a research project in collaboration with Dr. Sue Kang, Dr. Mark Siders, and Dr. Curtis Bacon, exploring perceptions on legalized marijuana and marijuana tourism in the state of Oregon, United States of America. As one of the segments in special interest tourism, marijuana tourism is growing at a fast pace, drawing thousands of people and millions of dollars to states where adult sale of marijuana is legal. And marijuana tourism products include a wide range of activities, from several day packages to smaller weekend getaways for couples and groups, bed and breakfast, vending machines, food trucks, marijuana festivals, trade shows, and marijuana conferences. For the purposes of this study, we define marijuana tourism as the act of traveling or vacationing to a place because of the ability to purchase marijuana legally. Marijuana or cannabis tourism is a budding industry, and to sustain the positive benefits of tourism development, studies should focus on understanding new tourism projects and opportunities, including impacts, supply and demand patterns, consumption profiles, and policy management related to marijuana consumption. Hence, there is a need for more empirical studies investigating the fast-changing marijuana legalization, industry growth effects, coupled with a better understanding of local perceptions on those changes and impacts. A little bit of background on the marijuana legalization in Oregon. Ballot Measure 91 was passed in 2016 with effective date of sales of recreational cannabis on January 1st, 2017, so it is still relatively new. The ballot allows personal use and regulation of marijuana, as well as commercial cultivation, manufacture, and sale. The regulatory body is the Oregon Liquor Control Commission. Consumption is only allowed in private or permitted areas, and public consumption, including outdoor spaces, is prohibited. So each municipality can decide whether to accept marijuana businesses with their jurisdiction or not. Currently, 105 municipalities allow sales of marijuana in Oregon, while 80 cities in Oregon prohibit the sale of recreational marijuana. And the industry brings in a lot of revenue. As of 2019, that is $578 million. I will point out that it is illegal to drive under the influence of marijuana. In terms of literature review, little research has been done since the legalization in tourism literature specifically. The extant literature which is available is focusing on drug tourism and having these negative social connotations affiliated with marijuana tourism. A lot of the studies are using secondary data or a qualitative approach, and studies are mainly in selected geographic locations, for example, the Netherlands, the Amazon region, Mexican border, South Asian countries, Israel. And marijuana consumption is considered an extension of leisure activity, not as tourism activity specifically. In 2016, Kang et al. Identified recommendations for cannabis tourism research areas, including exploring economic and social impacts, demand, visitors, supply, products, tour packages, attractions, perceptions of host regions, residents, and communities, as well as government policy and regulations. Hence, this study addresses some of the areas, touching on economic and social impacts, as well as resident perceptions on impacts. Thus, our research questions are: what are Oregon residents' perceptions on marijuana tourism, specifically focusing on positive impacts, negative impacts, and perceptions on the image of Oregon as a place to live and tourism destination, as well as exploring Are Oregon residents supportive of marijuana tourism? Our methods. The study setting is Oregon. Residents of the 7 tourism regions, as identified by the destination management organization Travel Oregon, were surveyed. We utilized a survey instrument developed by Kang and Lee in 2018, first used in a similar study based in Colorado. The survey was distributed through Qualtrics Research Services between July 31st and August 9, 2019. The survey included questions focusing on support, image of the state, positive and negative impact of marijuana tourism, our main constructs. All questions except the demographic information questions were measured on a 7-point Likert type scale, with 1 strongly disagree to 5 strongly agree. The survey was sent to a random sample of 7,000 residents of Oregon via Qualtrics Research Services, with 729 completed surveys with a response rate of 10 to 11%. Our goal was to have a representation of each of the 7 regions of Oregon for eventually identifying similarities and differences between the regions. You'll see the regions on the next slide. And I'll point out that this is the initial analysis of this study, focusing on descriptive statistics to outline respondents' characteristics and their perceptions on legalized marijuana impacts. Here you can see the 7 regions of Oregon, as identified by Travel Oregon. We asked the question, what region in Oregon are you currently living in? As you can see from the graph, the distribution of the survey respondents from each region is proportionate with the population numbers in each of the 7 regions. For example, Portland area, where the city of Portland is located, is much highly populated, so there are more respondents from there, while Mount Hood and the Columbia River Gorge, Eastern and Central Oregon are less densely populated, so we have less respondents from those regions. In terms of age, the survey respondents were from various ages, slightly higher percent in the younger population, 18 to 24, about 39% of respondents, 25 to 34, 15%, 35 to 44, 16%, 45 to 54, 14%, 55 to 64, 12% of respondents, and 65 to 74, 3% of respondents. In terms of gender, 57% of respondents were female and 43% were male. The results are organized based on our constructs, focusing on positive impact, negative impact, image, and support. First, in terms of positive impacts, results indicate that residents perceived marijuana legalization and the related growing tourism positively overall. The study respondents stated that they enjoy living in a state where marijuana is legal and perceive marijuana tourism to be beneficial at a personal and state level, as you can see here at the relatively high means. On average, 50% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed with the statements related to positive impacts, and only about 10 to 20%, varying based on the different questions, disagreed with the statements. Over 60% agreed or strongly agreed that legalized marijuana will lead to an increase in tourism spending, employment opportunities, investment, and small business opportunities. In terms of perceptions on the negative impacts of legalized marijuana in the state of Oregon, respondents were somewhat neutral to slightly disagreeing with the negative statements. The mean was 2.4. Approximately 60% of respondents disagreed that legalized marijuana will result in negative impacts, such as increased drug problems, vandalism, crime, and overcrowding. On the other hand, about 15 to 25% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed with the statements. Over 40% agreed or strongly agreed that legalized marijuana will cause impaired driving, which is the main concern in terms of negative impacts. We also asked questions regarding local perceptions of the state image. Residents did not perceive the image of tourism being negatively impacted or changed due to marijuana legalization and tourism, and 40 to 60% agreed or strongly agreed that Oregon is still a great tourism destination and a good place to live. Regarding support and benefits from marijuana tourism, the majority of respondents were supportive of marijuana tourism and perceived that legalized marijuana benefits the state and is a good opportunity for Oregon. 65% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed that marijuana tourism benefits the state of Oregon, with 15% disagreeing or strongly disagreeing and 19% being neutral. We also asked if recreational marijuana legalization was on the ballot today, how would our respondents vote? The majority of respondents said they would support marijuana legalization if it were on the ballot today, even though less than half identified themselves as recreational marijuana users, as you can see on this slide. And over 83% of respondents stated that they expect other states legalizing. They agreed or strongly agreed with this question, and less than 5% disagreed and 11% were neutral. To sum up, marijuana legalization and the related growing tourism was perceived positively by our respondents. Negative impacts were acknowledged, but the image of Oregon has not been affected negatively based on the resident perceptions. And overall, respondents were supportive of legalization and marijuana tourism. Since the marijuana sector will continue to be scrutinized by community stakeholders and policymakers, the findings of this study can be useful in developing appropriate strategies and policies and fostering sustainable tourism development of local communities. In terms of future research, this is the first step of the analysis, only descriptive statistics. Thus, we plan on testing relationships between the constructs, identifying to what extent perceptions of positive and negative impact, as well as Oregon tourism image, are predictors of support for marijuana tourism. We would like to explore the role demographic characteristics play in Oregon resident support for marijuana tourism, specifically exploring the role of age, as McGrady et al. 2020 found a significant relationship between age and support for marijuana tourism. So perhaps also looking at a longitudinal approach to document how individuals' perceptions on marijuana tourism evolve over time. We'll be interested in incorporating moderating variables, such as marijuana usage, whether the individuals have children at home or not, whether they were supporting the ballot, to enrich the understanding of residents' perceptions. And in these times, it will be interesting to explore the impact of COVID-19 on marijuana tourism and local perceptions. Thank you very much.